I have a slightly different view of what is occurring here. I've lived through many cycles, obviously, as everybody has on this call. What I find intriguing about the nature of this correction, if you want to call it that, or the potential of a recession, is that it is in the foreshadow and then the shadow of $6 trillion worth of printing. And so you think about what occurred during the pandemic, which is unprecedented in any economy's history, to take that much and print it in basically 30 months and not to expect inflation. Well, of course, that's why we have what we have right now, a 40-year new high in inflation. But at the same time, if you could figure out the printing presses were going to stop, you would be forecasting a new leg up. And here's my thinking on this. There's two bills right now in front of Congress. And so one is a watered down version of Build Back Better. They're calling it anti-inflation, but everybody knows is a joke. This is very inflationary, but it's a spend over 10 years. So that's one attribute of more printing, which would maintain an inflationary stance and, of course, keep the Fed raising rates, which is not good for equities. And then there's this interesting situation in the chip bill, where we're going to spend billions of dollars. It's, again, free money from a helicopter going into the Midwest to try and catch up with what's happened in our lack of ability to manufacture semiconductors. Now, cut it to what it is. It means that management, the Intels of the world, the AMDs, they made a mistake. They moved all their production offshore decades ago, took the US down from 32% of manufacturing down to less than 10. Now they got to bring it home. We're going to print money to make that happen. That also is inflationary. And you can sell it as something as a defense to the US, but basically you're supporting idiot management. That's basically what happened. You're picking a sector. Taxpayers are not getting anything from it other than just to give their tax dollars away to idiot management. And I don't mean disrespectfully, but there's management that can execute and foresees the future, and that's why they're good managers. And then there's idiot managers. So you could say many idiot managers guided manufacturing out. And why I bring this up towards determining the future of the market is every midterm election, and this starts in about 2 weeks, okay? It's November 8th, by midnight, November 8th. And this is my thinking as an equity participant. And I don't think a lot of people think this through. You've got a situation now where normally any incumbent, you don't have to get into politics, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what party's in power, they lose seats in the midterm. That happens 100% of the time. There's fatigue, people are tired, they want to make changes, and it's happening at a regional level. This time, though, in my view, there's at least a 50-50 chance that both the House and the Senate flip to the other party. I don't even want to get into politics, but the point is, there's a lot of unhappy campers in America today based on inflation around food and energy. They're really pissed. And so when that happens, and it's so close, it's November 8th, this is the good news for investors. After that night, there will be total gridlock in Washington for the next 2 years. There will not be a single piece of legislation passed. It will be impossible to get anything done, and that's a great thing. That's a wonderful thing, because markets love Washington gridlock. And I think whether you want to say it's PE expansion or earnings expansion, and it may be both, we're going to continue this leg up. Now, not 30%, but if you have an option between making 8 or 9%, including div distribution and yields on the S&P 500 at a 17 to 18 PE, or getting 2 to 3% on long duration treasuries, I think that's a no-brainer. You're going to stay long equities, and that's my position. I am underweight fixed income big time. I don't care when the Fed stops raising. That's another debate. Do they do 50 basis points? Do they 75? We're going to find that out. They may do 50. The narrative has changed to a soft landing for the first time in decades. Nobody gives credit to the Fed for ever delivering a soft landing because they never do. Maybe because of the backwater of all this printed cash, they have that opportunity to do this. So bottom line is, so I make it very clear, bottom is in. We're going to be flatlining for a while we wait to see what the Fed does. But if we get what I think is going to happen November 8th, Katie, bar the doors. Gridlock in Washington is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Take, for example, what's happening right now in this Build Back Better inflation bill. They're adding a 1% tax to stock buybacks. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Then they put a 15% minimum corporate tax in the US, an idea floated by Yellen all around the world. Nobody followed her. Now the US is less competitive. The politicians damage bull markets. They've never run businesses. They have no idea what they're doing. They're just throwing this stuff out there to raise money. I don't want to be a cynic, but it's a fact. They have no idea. And so they put these crazy policies in place. The more you keep chipping away with stupid policy, the more damage you do long term to your economy. Now, this 15% minimum tax does not help equities. It doesn't. It's just going to have companies contort and try and figure out how to get around it. Bottom line. The IRS, 88,000 more agents, that's just going to hassle small businesses in America. Not a good thing. So bad policy. The whole point is, when you have a situation where Washington can move policy, more than 50% of it is bad policy. When you have total gridlock, they can't do anything. They can't damage anything. Listen, it's important to have government for many different services, but not for making economic policy. They're really bad at it. So that's why I point out, once you shut down the policy machine, markets get to move back up. We were supposed to get a policy just on stablecoins reviewed this month. They pushed it, and I'm talking about now on the Hill in Washington, they pushed it to September to consider it. You got to remember, there's Haggerty, there's Loomis, there's Toomey, and Toomey is going to retire in January. He wants to get one piece of policy done. He wants to get stablecoins regulated. And the policy they're putting forward, I've been spending a lot of my time in Washington on these bills. And I'm not the only guy doing this. And I'm totally transparent on my interests here. I want to get some kind of payment system for my global businesses when we're transferring cash. I want to use USDC between here and Geneva. We index. I have an indexing business. So we're constantly, every day, taking US dollars, ACHing it over to Zurich. They charge me a fortune for that. It takes 36 hours sometimes. Then they nip me on the FX trade when I go into Swiss francs and buy a Nestle or a Roche or whatever I'm buying to index it. And then they screw me again on the way out. I could completely eliminate that with a payment system. And everybody knows that. So there's a lot of utility. Second reason you got to be bullish here is this. Both sides are supporting this, Dems and Republicans, because it makes the dollar, if you get a U.S. stablecoin policy in place, it makes it the default payment system of the earth. Not the Swiss franc, not the euro, not the British pound, not the Chinese yuan, the U.S. dollar. So this is coming back to the House on the floor in September, and it may be the first piece of legislation that provides the launch ramp for more crypto policy. Now, you know there's a war going on between the SEC and the other regulators, a turf war on crypto, but you can't deny crypto is here to stay. In fact, I believe in the next 10 years, it'll be the 12th sector, the S&P. And I'm trying to make bets all through the continuum of projects. I own everything. I have 32 positions. I don't know which ones are going to work. I don't need them all to work. I just need a few. Huge position in Ethereum, huge in Bitcoin, Solana, Polygon, Helium, Pollen, the new one I just took on. There's all kinds of projects. And the thinking for me is this. You go teach a class of MIT graduates in engineering right now. I do guest lecturing there. 1/3 of the class are entrepreneurial. Where do they want to go? They have no interest in working in any of the 11 sectors of the economy. They want to work on the blockchain. They want to be in crypto. You can't pour that much intellectual capital into something and not have great outcomes one day. It's like being at the beginning of the internet. And I'm talking about the smartest, brightest men and women from around the world saying, screw everything else. I want to work on crypto. But you've got to remember, we've been talking about the merge for 5 years. Some of this is causing havoc in capital markets around data centers. I want to point something out here that I think we haven't touched on. And again, I'm tracking this from indexers. So one of my core businesses is to index for sovereign wealth. 70% of capital that's invested around the world, and it may be, when we measure it again, 75%,